Okay, very fortunate to have on the other end of the line. We have Gus from Firewind. Gus, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, mate. You will get to the upcoming tour shortly, but just take us back a bit. Describe how you formed the band.
Well, this band started in a very unorthodox way. Originally it was just me doing demos with friends, and later on just doing demos in my bedroom with my drum machine and my little 8-track, and sending my demos to labels, and basically trying to find a band, try to fit in somewhere. And a guy from Atlanta called David Chastain, he owned a small label called Leviathan Records, and originally he was the only one that would actually get back to me, and he was giving me tips for my playing and my music. And 3 years later, he offered me a record contract and helped me put this band together. Not this current lineup, but the first lineup of Firewind, and it was basically studio musicians. And that's how we started out, basically, as an MP3 exchange band. I had a couple of guys from America that I had never met that I was sending my music to, and they would do their part and send it back. And that's how we did our first couple of albums. It wasn't until the third or fourth album where we became a full touring band, and that's when the first lineup changes started happening.
Awesome. Now, how would you describe the heavy music scene in general back then? Was it ready for a band like Firewind, do you think?
I don't know. I guess so. There was a lot of, especially in Europe, there was a lot of melodic bands, a lot of power metal bands, especially in the mid '90s. There was, I think we were kind of like, for the music that we played, we were maybe a little bit late, maybe 5 years late. So we didn't catch that power metal trend, if you like. Bands like Stratovarius and Angra, and like early '90s or mid '90s, those bands were doing really good here in Europe, and Southern Europe especially. We started around '98. Well, no, the first album came out in 2002. It took me 4 years to put this whole thing together. So by that time, maybe there was not much of a melodic metal scene or power metal scene, if you like. So, we still, I think the first place where our records had any success was Japan. That's where our first, really hardcore fan base was,
Okay. Japan get right into that, don't they?
They like melodic heavy metal. They like to hear good guitar playing in bands, and they always enjoyed that, the fans there. And mind you, that was then. Now it's, I think Japan is also a different place than what it was 10 years ago when we started. Nowadays, the type of music we play, it's not very popular in Japan, apparently. So, I don't know. Music comes around in circles, man. I think that's why I always say stick to your gun. You shouldn't really see what's happening and what's selling in certain parts of the world. Mostly because by the time you get your shit together and you put out an album, that thing is gone and somebody else is taking the place. So, you should just be honest and play what you like to play, and so if it's good enough, some people will like it.
Yeah. Now, your first album, Between Heaven and Hell, which came out in 2002, how was that received?
No, that album got really good reviews everywhere. It was a really good start for us. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. Like I said, I didn't have any proper band. It was just like a studio thing, and but the songs were very good. Those were songs that I was working on since I was a teenager, and it was a big moment for me personally. It was my first album with Firewind, and I always wanted to do that since I was a teenager. And like I said, we sold quite a few records in Japan, and there was I didn't expect that, and there was a lot of good reviews coming in from all over the world. So it was a really good debut album, I think.
Now, you were doing a number of other projects at the same time initially. How did you find the time, for starters?
Well, originally I started playing with different people because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was living in Sweden at the time, and I was jamming with this producer Frederick Nordstrom, and together we started a band called Dream Evil, and I was helping also another friend of mine, Marios, a guy from Greece, and together we formed a death metal band called Night Rage. So I was working on 3 or 4 different bands because nobody was signed at the moment, and it was just like making music with friends and trying to gain experiences, and write a lot of songs. And just for me, I was like 17, 18 years old. I just wanted to absorb as much information and experience as I could. So I didn't really think that all of these projects would end up making records or get tour offers, So at that point, it was all right, late '90s. But after 2002, 2003, a lot of these albums that I was working on, or a lot of that music, it got released, and I found myself playing in 4 bands at some point, and I started panicking because I didn't know where I should be loyal. I tried to, because I was heavily involved with everything. So, and I wanted to. I wanted to be able to support each release, but you cannot do that. You can only do that for so long. So I ended up a couple of years later. I ended up leaving all the band and focusing on Firewind.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in time for the next album, which was Burning Earth, there's a couple of lineup changes there, which that's happened a bit in Firewind over the years. That must keep you on your toes.
Well, I'm used to it by now, so.
Now, over the time here, you've had a steady stream of albums. Since, if you start off with your first album, Between Heaven and Hell, in 2002, it's like 7 studio albums in 11 years. That's more than most bands. How do you find the time?
Well, I don't know. It's like I said, in the first few years we were not touring, so making 1 album a year was kind of like what I was looking forward to, like working on the next batch of new songs and putting them out. But once we started touring and I quit all my other bands, then and that came around the time for that happened around the time of Allegiance, our 4th album, in 2006. When we started, that's when we did our first world tour. The thing is, when the band gained that momentum and stuff, we thought we should go back in the studio and start writing another album, and that's what happens, and then that's how it works, I guess. You go on a tour and then some, one thing leads to another, and then you get some, you get a momentum, and you gotta keep building on that, and the next natural thing is to go back in the studio and do another album, and before you know it, you're on another world tour, and then you start working on the next album, because that's how it goes, And then before you know it, 10 years are gone, and you've done like all these albums, and you haven't been home much, and that's what it's like, man. Look at every big band like Iron Maiden. That's what everybody did those days, like when they first started out. They did album after tour, and then album after tour, and tour and album, and that's what they did. Everybody, Or look at Black Sabbath, like the first 8 years, like the first 6 or 7 years, how many albums they did and how many tours, That's what everybody did back then.
Yeah. Now, I'll just touch very briefly on this. Playing with Ozzy, how did that come about?
Yep. That was an email from his management about 4 years ago. Actually more than 4 years ago. That was in 2009. They were looking for a guitar player, and they said they never heard about me, and they asked me if I wanted to go to LA and audition, and of course, man, I freaked out, but I said, yeah, sure, I'm like, I got nothing to lose, at least I'm gonna get to go in the room with a guy and jam a few songs, and it'll be a great story to tell my friends or my kids one day.
Yeah.
So I prepared as well as I could, and I flew over to LA, and I met his band, and I met Ozzy and Sharon and everybody, and they came in the room, in the rehearsal room, and we jammed, and that day was fantastic. Everything went so great, man, and I don't know how it happened, but it just went really good, and Ozzy really liked what he was hearing, and they asked me right there on the spot to come back and play a show with him. And,
excellent.
We did one show, and it went really well, and then the next thing was like, do you want to come back and do another show? And I'm like, yeah. So I went back and did another show like next month. And then the next thing, I find myself in his home studio working on his new album, Scream, at the time. So
Wow.
that was that.
Yeah. What have Firewind been doing lately? I've noticed that you do a lot of the European summer festival circuit. Do you enjoy them?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, we just played a lot of festivals this summer. Some small ones, some bigger ones. It's great. It was great. It was a busy festival season for us. Probably one of the busiest in the last few years in our career. I mean, earlier this year we started off by touring the States, then we went into the festivals, and now we're finishing off the year with our first Australian tour.
Yeah. Now, this next question regarding the festivals, it's in two parts. Now, with the festivals, do you regard them as critical for exposure in the band, or are they regarded as the icing on the cake?
Good question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think they're like you said, it's great for exposure because it's you can do a club show and you can play for 500 people up to 1,000 people, but then you go to a festival and you can play in one gig you can play in front of 20,000 people and you can actually cross over and make a lot of new fans, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then again, like I say, if you look at it as an icing on the cake, I always look at that because I feel grateful that we can get chances to play big shows like that.
Yeah.
So anytime a big festival invites you to play, I'm very happy about that because it's like I said, you don't get to do that unless you're a big arena act and you're headlining those festivals. You don't really get to do that big size gig. So it's great. It's great exposure. It's great promotion for your band. It's great to meet also a lot of people, and you get to see a lot of people from the business, a lot of friends of yours, musicians over the years, people you toured with. So it's a good feeling to actually go out there and do those festivals. Yeah.
Okay. You're coming to Australia for the first time. You must be looking forward to that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be my first time in your country. Never played there, never visited there.
Are you holidaying as well while you're here?
No, not really. I mean, maybe there's going to be one off day to maybe go around a little bit, but the gigs are the main thing,
Yep.
So, I mean, we've been all over the world, mostly, I've been to all places with Ozzy, and we've been to lots of places with Firewind as well, but never in Australia, so we're looking forward to it. We've been getting fan mail from Australia for years and years, so yeah, finally it's happening.
Any changes to the lineup for Australia? I've seen that Apollo has left, and you've got Kelly in the band. How's he working out?
Oh, he's doing really good. He's amazing. He's a phenomenal singer, man. I mean, we've been Kelly's been in the band since the beginning of this year, so this is going to be the same lineup that we're going to be coming down there. Okay.
Now, you've had a number of albums to choose material from with regard to live shows. I would imagine certain songs are expected to be in the set list. This is an interesting question.
Yeah, well,
I mean... Go on.
We're gonna play songs from our whole career, I don't think we're going to leave any albums out. Maybe some albums are going to get a bit more attention than others, but there's definitely going to be songs spanning from our whole career. No doubt about it.
Is there a song that you would expect that you would always have to play? Have you got Smoke on the Water?
I mean, we don't have a song as good as Smoke on the Water.
No, come on. You know what I'm getting at, though, don't you?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. We definitely yes. I think we have a couple of those songs. I mean, I would say one of them is Falling to Pieces, or another one is Mercenary Man, or Head Up High, or The Fire and the Fury. I mean, these are songs that are like they have to be on our set list every time we play.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Okay, so where are you off to after Australia?
I'm going, actually, I mean, the band is taking a break after that. These are going to be the final shows for 2013. The band's flying back home. I fly to Japan to do a week for guitar clinics.
Yep.
and then I go home, and then I think that's it for this year, basically. And I'm working on a solo album right now, so
Okay.
I'm going to be working with that next year, and the band's going to take a break to, kind of like take it easy for a while and collect new ideas for the next album. But yeah, next year I'll be out promoting my first solo album, actually.
Excellent. Do you ever write songs on the road?
Not very often. I mean, usually ideas come to me while I'm on the road, from jamming and stuff, or when I'm practicing and all that. But I don't really do any proper demo recordings when I'm on the road. I mainly, I might compose and have, collect a few riffs, but that's about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, Gus, it's been excellent talking to you today, and we look forward to seeing you in Adelaide very soon.
Oh, same here, my friend, same here. Well, I'm looking forward to it very much, and thank you to everybody for listening.
Thank you.